Another year, another Galaxy Note upgrade. This time around, we've got the Galaxy Note 3. And while it may have plenty of specifications under the hood, today, while I have the T-Mobile variant of the Galaxy Note 3 in-house, we're going to find out whether or not this is the phablet that you're going to want to upgrade to this holiday season. I'm Evan Selleck from PhoneDog.com. This is the T-Mobile Samsung Galaxy Note 3 full video review, which starts right now. So here we have it, the brand new Samsung Galaxy Note 3. We finally have it in-house and are able to get it under the camera for a full video review. Now, Samsung wants you to be able to buy this phone and not feel guilty about it. Just like we've seen from other previous yearly upgrades, there's some debate on whether or not you should actually pull the trigger on it. With the Galaxy Note 3, the decision should be a bit easier. Samsung decided to not only continue to throw in everything including the kitchen sink at this device, both from a hardware and software perspective, but they put a bigger focus on making sure that the Galaxy Note 3 doesn't look like the Galaxy Note 2. Even looking at it at the front, not so much like a Galaxy Note 2. Their design language has changed slightly. I mean, it's not a huge change, but it's just slight enough that, in all honesty, you're looking more at a Galaxy Note or a Samsung Galaxy S2 maybe from the front. But on the back, it's very much different. Now, Samsung has been sort of panned for having plastic devices, for having high-end plastic devices. Now, that debate will go on forever, and other companies and manufacturers are going to continue to use plastic as well, but Samsung has decided with the Galaxy Note 3 to give it a fake leather stitching. So you're looking at it and you'll see that it does kind of look like you're looking at fake leather, and that's due to the stitching, which you can see right here, which runs all along the back. However, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it is still plastic. It is kind of textured like fake leather or leather, but it's still plenty plastic. But before we get too far into the video review for the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, I want to go ahead and give out a special shout out to our partners at Best Buy Mobile. They give us devices like the Galaxy Note 3 to give away in our One Paw Bandit game. Walk into Best Buy Mobile, they're going to help you get it set up with your brand new device, whether that's contacts, settings, email, whatever you may need help with, they'll be there to help you get it set up so you walk out working. Now, let's just jump right into the video review. So, with the Galaxy Note 3 and with other previous Note devices, the question was, do you need a big display? Now, you may think a bigger display is pretty much all you need for a smartphone, especially in days where you have so much consumption, whether it's apps or videos or things like that. Now, that could be true, especially with devices becoming 1080p and other, high def resolutions. So with the Galaxy Note 3, you're looking at a very sizable display. Now, the difference here is that you look at the Galaxy Note 3 and you have a big display. However, with the Samsung Galaxy Note lineup, you have what they call the S Pen, and this right here that popped up is called Air Command, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. First, let's run down the specs. Right now, right at the first thing you're going to notice is the 5.7-inch display, which does have a native resolution of 1080 by 1920, and which gives it a 366 pixel per inch count. So, and I will tell you that the display is gorgeous. It's gorgeous to look at, and that's pretty much all you can ask for with a smartphone, or with any kind of device for that matter. Now, under the hood, you're going to find that it has 3 gigs of RAM, which is a nice increase, and pretty soon we're probably going to see that become the standard for high-end devices, so especially in the middle of next year or so. And inside, we're going to find Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor. Now, this is pretty much all the rage for high-end devices right now. If it doesn't have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor, you're apparently doing it wrong. So Samsung covered that base pretty well. Now, it is a quad-core processor, and it's clocked right around 2.3 gigahertz. So it's a beast of a processor. So, we're not surprised by that, nor should you be. You're going to find either variants with 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes. This model has 32 gigabytes. And on the back, you're going to find Samsung's 13 megapixel camera. And right underneath that, you're going to find their LED flash. Now, on the front, there's going to be a 2 megapixel camera, as you can see right there. Basically, as we've seen in the past, Samsung is covering all the bases with this device. You aren't just getting a high-end device, but you're getting a really high-end device, especially from the hardware perspective. Now, Samsung's TouchWiz UI is definitely still here. You're going to find things that are very, very TouchWiz-y. Things like S Note and things like that are going to be very reminiscent of Samsung's, and as you can see, this is their story album, which gives you a new way to tell stories through Samsung software. And it's very much TouchWiz-y. The whole thing is very Samsung-esque. And of course, you're going to expect to see that, especially with a device like the Galaxy Note, because so much of their software is built in that Samsung's weather app that you can find in pretty much every TouchWiz device these days. Most of their software is built to be running TouchWiz. Now, you can see changes in that and specifics with things like the keyboard. And when you build this up, you're going to see the white variant that most Samsung devices have these days. But at the top row, you're going to find, thanks to the bigger screen size, the dedicated numbers row. Now, if we flip this over onto the side, those numbers get kind of small, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but with a bigger screen like this, you'd almost think they can make them just a bit bigger. The keyboard itself is really quick. I was pleasantly surprised with how quick the keyboard is. So this dog, and we're going to look it over right here. There's plenty of spacing between the keys, and there's enough travel in between pressing the buttons that you have a pretty good quick feedback. So the keyboard on the Galaxy Note 3 is plenty quick, and it's good enough for everyday usage. Now, as for, you know, slipping between screens and things like that, it's also plenty quick. I've noticed over the years that with Samsung devices, if it does start to lag, it's over time. I've been using this for a little while now, and I haven't noticed any lag between switching apps, between going into widgets, or anything like that. So the processor, the extra RAM, and the optimizations that Samsung has made for TouchWiz do a very good job of getting everything done the way it should. With their camera app, and just as we've seen with previous devices like the Galaxy S4 and things like that, you have a mode button, which was right here, and this will give you the ability to slide through certain changes. So best photo, best face, sound and shoot, drama, and it's all relatively nice. The UI is probably a little bit overdone for choosing a different camera mode, but that'll be completely up to you. Now, size-wise, like I said earlier, it is a 5.7-inch display, so that might be a little bit hard to grasp, just talking about size-wise. So we're going to set this down. This is our Galaxy Note 3 right here in the middle. Right here on the left is a Galaxy S4, so obviously you can see quite a bit of a size difference. And on the right, we're going to go ahead and put the Galaxy Mega 6.3. So obviously Samsung is continuing their trend of covering the size variants. The difference here with the Galaxy Note 3 is that Samsung is absolutely right when they say that it is thinner, and you can definitely see that it is a really thin device. But on top of that, since they increased the size of the screen, it is lighter. It feels great in the hand. It is easier to move, with one hand from one side of the screen to the other. However, it is still a 5.7-inch display, so it is kind of hard to deal with the device, as you're working on it with just one hand. It's definitely a two-handed device, and that's not a bad thing. With a device that has a screen size this big, you'd expect it to be a two-handed device. So that's not a knock against the Galaxy Note 3 in any shape or form. With this screen size, you need two hands. On top of that, and these are the changes that Samsung has included with the software side and Air Command. We'll get that to pop up again in just a second. Now, this is the new S Pen, and hopefully we can there's the new button. But the one main takeaway is that it's designed to slide into the S Pen holder, which is right here, in any way that you want to. It's no longer you have to slide it in one way or another. So you'll be able to just slide it in and then it goes away pretty easily. Now, it is easy to find if you're just looking for it and you just want to pull it out, because it does kind of have a slight bump to it when it's slid in there. So it's easy to find if you don't really want to look for it and you just want to pull it out. And as you can see, you can still see it with the back casing as well. However, the one thing I did notice through my time with it is that it is kind of hard to pull out. I don't know if that's because of the new design or if they just designed it that way so it doesn't slip out, because I don't ever think this will just slip out of its casing. But it is kind of hard to pull out, especially if you're someone who is just trying to, pull it out pretty quickly. I've never been able to pull it out in just one swipe. Granted, that could just be user error, but that's what I found through my usage time with it. I mean, sliding it in is easy, but just pulling it out, it always takes two chances. So let's look at the alterations that Samsung has included with the S Pen. Now, with the S Pen, obviously, most of the changes are going to come in the S Pen. Most of these features are mapped specifically to the S Pen. So we're going to look at, let's go with Action Memo, for example. Now, this pops up, and you're going to be able to link actions. So we'll try that in just a second. So for one thing, okay, so let's say you have a note, right? And let's say I want to take down a name, right? And just because this is how you go about parties, okay, so we do this. You can select a specific part of the memo by drawing a line around it. Okay, so, and oddly enough, it usually does this. I've noticed that it pretty much will do it by itself, which is interesting. So you'll be able to, once that line is drawn, you'll be able to pick it up. So there you go. Now, if you go back into it, you'll be able to do it on your own. Now, you'll have options, which are a really nice and quick way to have actionable options. So right here, I'll be able to call it, add it to a contact, email if it was an email address, or, oh sorry, this is the messaging app, so I could text message this number, or email. And as you're able to see, the S Pen does have pop-up windows that are, you can see what it is. So if it is an address or an email or a web URL, I could show up at the browser, map it, or just add it to a task. So these action windows are actually really well thought out. It just brings more functionality to the S Pen and things like that. And as you saw, I can resize it. It just has a little option right here, and you can resize the window to however you want it. You can also have other options, like you can change the background color, so let's change it to purple. Or you can minimize it. Now, the great thing about minimizing it is that it stays there. You can move it around, right? And it stays there on the screen. You can just touch it and it pops back up. It's a great option. And here's your list view for Action Memo. So you can see as it'll pop up, keeps the color and things like that. So if you push and hold it, you can move it. It'll usually pop right back to where it was. Or you can delete it. So there's that. Now the other thing, and we've seen this in previous Note devices, so you used to be able to have to touch these capacitive screen keys to get the option. Now you can use the S Pen and you don't have to put the S Pen away. So the other cool feature with this is, let's go with S Finder. Now this is pretty cool because you can use it to basically search your device. Now you can use the past 30 days, past 7 days, or handwriting or community, things like that. So, and it'll also bring up web results if there are web results to bring up. So it's a nice way to use the Finder and it's brand new to the Note 3, which is a nice added bonus. So this is pen window, another great feature. You can draw a window of any size anywhere on the screen. Okay, so it sounds pretty simple, and there's the quick pop-up. So do not show again, and let's say I want to do it right here, right in the middle, right? So pretty big box. Okay, now you can select an application, which is cool. So if you're browsing your screens or anything like that and you need a calculator to pop up, you can move it, you can minimize it. So we'll move it around, we'll move it down here. We can flip screens and the calculator stays there. So if you have something else open, you can have that calculator. Now, if we minimize it, it pops up into this circle. I can move it, and again, it stays right where it needs to, just in case you ever want to pop it up. I can touch it, it brings up another calculator. And there comes full screen calculator. So it's definitely nice benefits to it. Now, once you put the S Pen away, it makes a little noise, and you can have a certain settings function that will pop up if you walk away from your S Pen while it's out of the phone. It will warn you that you're walking away from your S Pen, so that's a nice bonus. Now, with Samsung devices, we're used to seeing plenty of different options. So if we go into device and we walk through each mode here, we can see that there's LED indicator still, there's still multi-window, and then we go into controls right here. Now we have voice control, hands-free mode, and then we have all sorts of things like air gesture, air view, air command, motions, palm motion, which we'll go ahead and show you if we can get it to work. With the palm motion, you can be able to set your device down, and we've seen things like this from previous Galaxy devices as well as handsets from Nokia and things like that. So phones here, let's say you don't want to actually pick it up. Okay, you just want to see what kind of notifications are. You can wave your hand over the phone, light will show up, and then you'll have glanceable notifications. Missed calls, text messages, let's have that pop up again, if it will. Alright, so we have missed calls, messaging, what your battery life is, and then it'll also show you what ongoing notifications you have. The one thing that I did notice was kind of upsetting is that while Google Now isn't necessarily something that manufacturers always have to showcase, when you push and hold the home button, you have these three options that pop up. Okay, now let's see if we can get close enough that you can see what they are right there. So the first one on the far left is a task manager. Your far right option is to clear all your running apps. So if I touch that, they'll all go away. And granted, the screen goes away too, which is slightly also frustrating. Now, once you do that, you'll have no recent apps. Now, down here, right there in the middle, is where Google Now is. It's not a huge deal breaker, but I do kind of miss the days where you could just launch Google Now, or just be able to, hold a software key and glide up to Google Now. So kind of just an extra step, not a deal breaker by any means, but it is what it is. So that's the Galaxy Note 3 in a nutshell. We've seen the majority of features in the Note 3 in previous devices. The big change is obviously the new S Pen, Air Command, which you can see again right there, and just those added functionality in the device. Now, the other benefit is the Galaxy Gear smartwatch that Samsung also announced recently. It's right here, this is the orange one, and we are going to get to that with a little bit more in-depth with the Galaxy Note 3 in the Galaxy Gears video review, so be sure to watch out for that. Now, as far as the Galaxy Note 3 goes, it is a worthy device. By a shake of the stick here, the Galaxy Note 3 is a device that you would feel comfortable owning. It's lightweight, it's not too big, but the big display does have a reason to exist thanks to the S Pen. It's really comfortable in the hand. While the Note 2 was still plenty big, this increases the display size, but does it in such a way that it's actually comfortable to use, so you can't argue with that. Of course, you're going to have to get used to this fake leather stitching, but it's not the worst thing in the world either. So, that is part 1 of our video review of the Galaxy Note 3. Stay tuned, we're going to get into the guts of the device, start playing around with TouchWiz a little bit, as well as do some speed tests for T-Mobile in my area. So, I'm Evan Selick from PhoneDog.com. Stay tuned.